All right, Hag Sameach, Eric. Let's finish off Psalms 91.
Chag Sameach. We're still on Psalms 91 here, like you say. So this is going to be 13, 14, 15, 16, the last four verses of Psalm 91. And again, we're just looking at word for word, letter for letter. Has anybody ever done this before? Has anybody ever gone through Psalms 91 in Hebrew, word for word, letter by letter? And
Not this long, I don't think. And not in the Paleo.
people may disagree. People are welcome to interpret for themselves. People are welcome to do their own study. I'm just trying to give for whoever has any regard, a benefit of what I see from. I've been looking at this Paleo Hebrew for now. Saw the Mishkan pattern right about this time of year in 2004, so 16 years. So this is the best I can see in these words from looking at the Hebrew written in Stone's Tanakh and the.
You should have a doctor in front of your name by now. Don't you want that? Special
I don't
recognition?
give much
Dr.
credence to the
Bissell?
doctors.
Huh?
Oh, what doctor?
Dr. Bissell, come on. 16 years.
Don't even want to go there. It's got whatever regard anybody chooses to give it. Other than that, I make no claims. Tomfoolery, maybe.
Well, I was trying to get you up there on the level with Dr. Brown and all these other Hebrew scholars.
Whimsical, poetic license, maybe. Anyway. Depends. I'd rather hang out with the ilk of riffraff and jailbirds and who else? Who else have you known? Anyway, verse 13. Al shachal ve'fatan tadereka ta ramas kafir ve'tanin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 words in the sentence. Ayin lamed means yoked to or in reference to, above, beside, at, opposite of. It's just it's something in reference. Ayin lamed. It's like the picture of a yoke, like a yoke teaming up a couple oxen. And then this word shin chet lamed means to pull out of joint, pass through a hole like threading a needle, dislocated. And roar, R-O-A-R, roar. Yoked to roar. And then the next word is python, Pt.4, Vav Pt.4. Look it up in the dictionary, it means python or cobra or venomous serpent. Yoked to the roar of a venomous serpent? Venomous serpents don't roar, maybe hiss, but what's this saying? And then it's tav, dalet, resh, kaf. This is one of those 4-letter words where is the first letter a prefix or is the last letter a suffix? So there's 2 ways to read it. If it's tav and then dalet, resh, kaf is the word, well, dalet, resh, kaf means way, like the way you walk, to journey, travel, wayfarer. But if the kaf is a suffix and tav is part of the 3-letter root word, then it's the word tav, dalet, resh, tadar, which means frequently or frequency. And we might say, okay, those are 2 completely different concepts. We were talking about resonance, vibrations, frequency. Well, that's the word. And it actually, with the kaf suffix, it means your frequency, your resonant harmonic vibration. But if it's frequently, then it means you frequently do what? Well, the way you walk is the way you frequently or habitually, or your manner, your conduct, your mode, which is exactly what the word dalet resh kaf means. So here, regardless of whether it's kaf is a suffix or yod is a prefix, it can mean literally the way you do things. As a matter of fact, if you look at the word dalet resh kaf, it also means briefed. Like you go in for a briefing, if you're in the military or construction crew, you get together and have a crew meeting and decide what you're going to do. It also means led, guided, and directed. So halakha haderek literally means walk the path, or the way you conduct yourself on the journey, your method of doing what he said to do. And if part of your method is, hey, we don't have to do that anymore, then don't do it. I'm not telling anybody you have to do it. You're saying that I read these words telling us we better do it, or that there's a blessing for doing it and a curse or no access to his high tower of refuge if we don't. It's your choice if you want to do what he said or not. If you find a weasel excuse, like that other word that we looked at, fig tree, if you can think of a fig leaf to logically hide behind, or some doctor can tell you, doctor of theology can tell you that it's impertinent, doesn't matter anymore, then hide behind that and see how good it goes. You know, hide behind the fig leaf and see if you can stay away from the coronavirus. You know, I'd just as soon go into the high tower of Yahweh's promise. But that's just my thinking. You can think however you choose. The next word is tav resh mem samik, which literally means stomp, tread, or trample. And then the word kaf pe yod resh. Well, in the dictionary, kaf pe yod resh, kafir, means young lion. You know, one of those young lions that's just been grown up from a whelp and now he wants to take on the leader, or he wants to go start his own crew, his own pride of lions. He wants to take over and be the boss. But it also means atheist and denial. Like a young lion who doesn't want to do what the old lion says, wants to start his own church, his own ideology, his own way, his own tribe, his own... But Peyo Resh also means a pit, a hole, and a ditch. And Kaf is a prefix letter, means like or as. So you could say like an atheist or one who denies. Does it say in the scripture, the fool says in his heart, there is no creator deity, one that we have to answer to, no Elohim, no God, no theos, the Greek word, no deist, a Latin word, but the last word here is vav, tav nun yod nun, tanin. Dictionary says crocodile, sea serpent, sea monster, jackals, a lot of teeth, shark, dragons, vicious carnivores. Putting this all together, somehow yoked to, similar to, having to do with pulling something. Then there's the word for python, petav nun, but that's python, so the Hebrew letters are very similar to the English pronunciation of this snake. What's a snake about? Now, the word nachash is snake, and seraph is where you get the word serpent, because the P and the PH, the F sound, so seraph and serap, serp, is exactly the concept of a snake, but this isn't that word, this is petav nun. So nun can be a suffix, so that you could look at petav, or which means to be spread out, or like the tread of a stair that spreads out, or this tabletop that spreads out. It could be a petav, the forehead, the part of your head that spreads out. There's petav hey, there's petav het. You can look those words up. There's petav tav. But here, just trying to say this so you could look to where you can find another correlation. You put the letter hey tav. Many words in the dictionary that start with hey tav, and then the word you're looking for, you'll find a very close meaning. So if you look at hey tav, pei tav, and then the suffix vav tav, it means persuaded, but it also means flocking. Flocking? You know, back in the days when we used to buy Christmas trees and they put that white fluff on it, that's flocking. So when you put some fluff on something, makes it look nice, captures your attention, or maybe you don't want the fluff on it, but the idea of having fluff on a petav. There's something also about bait, laying bait. There's something about a serpent, which is also nachash, the exact same word as enchantment. So when Adam and Hua were tricked, bamboozled, persuaded, beguiled in the Garden of Eden by this Nachash who was, didn't really hypnotize them, but he was just kind of moving around to get them off of having their attention on exactly what Yahweh said. Flocking, embellishing, distracting from the clear, distinct meaning of what Yahweh told them to do. That's that word Vav Petov Nun, Ve'afatan, or Python. So similar to being dislocated, pulled, like pulling a thread through the eye of a needle, seduced, Petov Vav Yod, enticed, beguiled, and then this word, your way, frequently, permanently, brief, led, guided. In other words, is this the adversary who's trying to trick us into going astray? But this word, these three words almost is saying the opposite. They're almost saying that perhaps Yahuwah himself is attracting us, drawing us, trying to get our attention and say, would you just come do it this way, please? I've got everything all set up. Just do what I asked you to do. What can I say? How much can I entice you? I'm giving you this high tower of refuge. I'm clearing things out on top of you. I'm giving you a place to walk under your feet. I've got you covered this way and that way. I'm your point man. I'm your rear guard. I've got walls. It's insurmountably high. It's like, gosh, what more can I do? Promise of eternal life. Promise of mercy and forgiveness. Promise of provision. El Shaddai, El Elyon, Yeshua T. It's like, and then these next three words are, so that you can stomp on young lions and sea monsters. This is another bait, another enticement that he's giving us. He says, not only will I protect you and keep you safe, you can go out, like the other verse we looked at, you can go out and conduct business as usual, and I will keep the pestilence from your tent, from entering into your tent, and I will make it so that if you are out there, you'll walk all over the tough young lions and the sea monsters that are much bigger and more vicious than you. How much more can he ask us to please come and regard his words? That's verse 13. And then verse 14 says, if or then, when or while we're regarding his stuff, with me, bet yod. Chet shin kuf, it means bind, joined, attached to, loved, desired, pressed together, longing, pleasure, covetous and lustful. With me, you're attached in this embrace of strong desire, joined to him. The one who is joined to Yahuwah with that kind of craving. The word next is Vav, Aleph, Pei, Lamed, Tet, He, Vav. So the Vav means this connection. It's typically translated and, but, however, in which case, very similar to the word Kafio, very similar to the word Ayin Lamed. Lamed Ayin Mem Nun also. But anyway, it's got the suffix of both the feminine suffix He and then the masculine suffix Vav. But the middle three letters, which is the root of the word, is Pei Lamed Tet. PLT or FLT, flit, flit. What do you think the word flit means in English? Same soundbite. What comes to mind? Flit.
Bird action.
Just,
yeah.
Literally, this word means escape, rescue, save, deliver, discharge, vomit, and fugitive. So the aleph prefix, I will, flit or flitah, because the he suffix is of that verb, and then the vav suffix after the he means he. The one who is pressed in by a craving, longing desire to be with Yahuwah, Yahweh will let him flit away like a scurrying little bird. Not this big soaring eagle, but the little tweety bird. Just flit away and escape, because Yahuwah will rescue him. Exactly what the word means. The same phonetic sound in Hebrew is the English word. The next word, Aleph, Shin, Gimel, Bet, He, Vav. Ashagavhau. Ashagavahu. Means inaccessibly high, very strong, protection, lofty exaltation, and set on high. But these little Tweety birds that flit are the ones that the cats get. Man, we had this one cat, there was a little Tweety bird up in a bird bath, and that cat was down there 3-4 feet away, and instantly he knew that you couldn't even see the cat from there, but that cat knew he was up and on that bird. The bird didn't have a chance. That's the opposite of what Yahweh is saying. He says, listen, I'm going to let you flit away from the predators because you're going to be protected by me inaccessibly high. That cat won't be able to get you. Very strong protection, lofty exaltation, set on high. That's all that word Elyon, most high, beyond reach. And then this is the same 3 words that we said a couple days ago, which is the root of the entire Psalms 91, Ki Yada Shemi, because he knows my name. The entire contingency for Psalm 91 here, because I know Yahweh's name. And his name is not just how to pronounce the 4 letters, Yod He Vav He or Aleph He Yod He, whichever one you want to look at, but the concept here is that Shem is name, fame, renown, and reputation. The Shabbat is his renown, as he said, proving, claiming, maintaining, lining up with, echad with, that he's the creator of the heavens and earth, having created them in 6 days, and he rested on the 7th. And that's the seal, that's his insignia, that's his stamp of identity, the one who created the universe in 6 days and rested on the 7th. And then you have the Moedim, Leviticus 23. The word ed, as in memvav, ayin dalet. Ayin dalet means witness and testimony. That means they describe and elaborate, give some type of a detail about his identity and his intent. Both of which concepts are wrapped up in the concept of the letter Aleph. So the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are also his Shem. So you have something about his Torah has to do with his Shem. His name has to do with his Shem. The meaning of the letters has to do with his Shem. His day of regard, the Shabbat, has to do with his Shem. And the Moedim, the 7 Moedim in Leviticus 23, are all about his Shem. And his Mashiach, the one he sent, as that word made human, flesh, is also a regard of his Shem. So when it says, because he knows my Shem, my suggestion is that if we study these matters that I just listed, his name, his day, his festivals, his covenant, the people who are of that covenant, his Messiah, Mashiach, the letters of his alphabet, there's 7 matters, those are his Shem. And because he knows my Shem, we have access to every one of these promises. And then we could address Isaiah 58 before we end here, which is another list of promises. We'll get to that in a few minutes. That's verse 14. Verse 15. Yod Kuf Resh Aleph Nun Yod. Yod sounds like an E, so Yakrani. Yakrani. Well, Kara is to, here, it's on page 590 in the Red Dictionary. Kuf Resh Aleph. To cry, call, invoke. He who calls out, I will answer him. The next word is Aleph, Ayin Nun He Vav. Well, Ayin Nun He, that's the word for fasting on the day of Yom Kippur, which, as we did this other video, and which we'll get to, Isaiah 58 is about. He says, if you listen to me, if you respond, if you hear me, if you occupy and burden yourself, afflict yourself, humble yourself with attending to my words, then the reciprocal mirror action is Yahweh speaking, I will attend to your words and your cares and your concerns. So this word here, he says, he will call out to me and I will answer. But this word kara, call out, it's like, well, anybody then can pray, dear Lord, help me. But that's not exactly what kara means. It does mean, as I read, to cry and call and invite. But it also means to proclaim and to read, to learn how to read. He called someone, he summoned them to a meeting to learn and study, and taught how to read the scriptures. To encounter, happen, or befall, or happen unexpectedly, to collect and harvest. It's a biblical verb, karaite, and it's the root of the word Quran, which means that thing which you read. The Torah is that thing which you read. The alphabet is the thing that you read. The point is, if we sit there and says, he who learns how to read, when Yahweh called and invited, Yahweh then says, I'll answer him. So who's doing the calling out? Well, both. Us calling out to him if we learn to regard his stuff, but he's calling us. Why are you watching this video? You're answering the call, you're answering the invitation, you're regarding the invitation, you're receiving the invitation to learn how to read the scripture. We're going through a step-by-step, learning how to read the scripture, letter by letter, word for word, with the Paleo Hebrew perspective. And Yahweh said, whoever does that, he will answer him. So we're doing this video so that our voice will be heard on high. And then the next words is Amo Anoki. Ayin Mem Vav. With him, Aleph Nun Kaf Yod, I am. With him I am. That's the way Yoda talked in the Star Wars movies. He talked Hebraically. Hebrew syntax. So Yahweh says, I will answer him. I am with him. There's a Ehyeh is translated I am. Ati is translated my, or this is my regard. Anoki is translated I am. And Ani is translated I am. So there's 4 words right there that are all I am. When Yeshua said, I am, and the high priest said, okay, they all fell backwards and in the garden, and then he said it in the priest's door's garden. Which word did he say? In English, I am, but there's at least those 4 words that he might have mentioned. Going on to the next word, Bet Zadi Resh He. Zadi Resh is the root of the word Mitzrayim, which means hard and difficult, or to bind up, and it means basically to be in big trouble. But Bet Zadi Resh He means sheepfold, strength, inaccessible, impossible, fortified, and enclosed. Well, that's very similar to the word we just looked at in the previous verse, which was Shin Gimel Bet, inaccessibly high, very strong protection. So these are synonymous words. But he's basically saying, if we're in trouble, he will actually answer by saving us and putting us into an impossibly accessed by our enemies fortified enclosure. Well, that's basically the meaning of the letter Het. The letter Het just means fence or enclosed, but this description, Bet Zadi Resh He, is a picture of saying the fence can be a prison, the fence can be a castle, it can be a tomb, or it could be a pasture. The fence is just this concept, and what we do with it is where we get into the word study. So the next word, Aleph, Het Lamed Zadi, He Vav, so you get this word chalatz, echelatza, echalatzau, because it's He Vav, those 2 feminine suffix, masculine suffix ending there. And chalatz literally means pioneer or to pull out. A pioneer is one who leaves the group, goes out and to the frontier and establishes, or like Lewis and Clark, they blazed a trail that others followed. So the pioneer is one who is extracted from the crowd. But then this concept of pulling out also means deliver, separate. So you could say, oh, well, wait a minute, if there's a crowd of people who are about to get whacked or trapped, Yahweh will allow that one to flit, escape, fly away like the little Tweety bird. It also means equipped for war, invigorated, or saved and rescued. So this one word chalatz can have these different concepts. But the interesting thing is, it's a same meaning, pull out, as that word that we looked at at the beginning of verse 13 when we started, which is Shin Het Lamed. So one of the benefits of sitting down and writing out these words and realizing, hey, wait a minute, one of these, they're not going to say, well, I will pull out. Maybe they'd say invigorate, rescue, or pioneer. But if you write these words down, you say, wait a minute, that pull out is the same exact meaning as the other pull out. So verse 13, the first word is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth word in verse 15. And so there's times when I said there's this poetic weaving in Hebrew. By looking at the various definitions, it's almost like this tapestry where this word connects to that word and this concept and over here and these things weaving back and forth. And if you look at some of my pages, I try to show this little tying this together. It's like, what the heck is going on? And it's like, you don't have to do this, but it's very interesting because I think it's on purpose so that the pulling out of delivering is then a qualifier for the concept of pulling out, like passing a thread through a needle in verse 13. So you could say, is that verse 13, is that word meaning to be pulled out of joint? Or does it mean that Yahweh is pulling and enticing? It's the same type of picture. He's saying you could be in a whole group and I'm going to pull you out and put you here in an exclusive place. So when there's that other verse that we looked at saying 1,000 could fall by your right on your side and 10,000 on your right hand, it's like, but it won't come near you. It's like, trouble happens to a lot of people, and I can't answer to as to why certain people experience the trouble. But the idea that these words were given so that we can wrap our minds around them is the point. And the last word of this sentence, verse 15, says, Vav Aleph, Kaf Bet Dalet, Hey Vav. There's another word here with the feminine suffix and the masculine suffix. But the root word then is Kaf Bet Dalet. That's pronounced kavod, and it means honor, glory, weighty regard. So Yahweh's saying with the Aleph prefix, I will highly regard and honor, because the He is an expression of the kavod, and then the Vav is the masculine suffix, meaning him. So the one who calls out to me reading my scripture, that's what we're doing. So because I'm not expecting everybody to learn what I know, or they may not even agree with what I'm saying here. But the fact that you would take the time to listen, you would take the time to regard, maybe you got yourself a Tanakh and you're looking and you're trying to follow along letter by letter, or you stop the tape because you've recorded this and you wind it back and you listen to it a few times and try to wrap your mind around these words. I could be writing it on a whiteboard, but people have said, speak the words. He didn't say to write them down. Well, some people he told to write down, but he said to Moshe, speak these words to my people. So we're doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. This is a little bit of talking. Not so much writing, but I'm telling you the letters so that you'll hear them. Va ikra yikrani ve aunayu Aleph ayin nun hey vav amo ayin men vav anoki Aleph nun kaf yod bet zara bet zadi resh hey Chalatzau, Aleph Chet Lamed Zadi He Vav, and Va Achavodau. Now maybe somebody else would say, this guy's butchering the language. Well, go watch the Butcher Boy video we did. Was that called, Terry, the Butcher?
Yeah,
a couple years back?
We love the Butcher.
Love the Butcher. I might be butchering the language. The point is, how do you pronounce when there's a word, a three-letter word, and then hey vav? Like kavod, kavoda, u. You have that vav suffix. It's pronounced, typically it's going to be either an o sound or a u sound, so it's kavada u. If you can do better, do better. Sorry for the offense. Walking mincingly as a child, like that dangling little. Be patient. Last verse, 16. Aleph Resh Kaf, lengthy and drawn out. Im Yim, or Im, days. Long days drawn out. Aleph, Shin Bet Yod Ayin, there's another Hey Vav ending. Shavia Ha'u. I will, and then that word Shavia is a variation of Shavuot, which is counting in 50, in which case for Shavuot, but it's the number 7. Shin Bet Ayin is the number 7. But this has to do with satiated, satisfied, like count, the full measure. It means contentment. But the word shin bet vav ayin and shin bet ayin also means oath and curse. So just like Yahweh says, when he blesses, he gives good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. That's the type of measure he uses. We talked previously about saying, boy, because of the circumstances of this week presently in this country, in the world, people are hoarding. So now everybody's got some kind of a stash. It's kind of like going to play poker and you've got your little pile of coins, even if you're playing pennies or rocks or whatever it is, marbles. It doesn't matter the value of it, but it's like now you have a stash that you can start playing the game. And the game is, what's the measure you're going to use? Yahweh uses good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. That is the meaning of the number 7. 7 also means curse. 7 also means oath. 7 also means to take a vow. And it also means filled to full and overflowing. It's the word surfeited, like the surf in the ocean. You have the flat water level and then the foam when the wave crashes and splashes up. That's the surf. It's the abundance overflowing. That's the number 7. So this Shin Bet Yod Ayin is a derivative of the word Shin Bet Ayin, which is the number 7, but it's translated as length of days in fullness of contentment. Next word, Vav, Aleph, Resh, Aleph, Hey, Vav. Well, Resh, Aleph, Hey, look it up in the dictionary, it means to put on exhibition or allow somebody to see. That's like going to a museum or going to a concert and seeing what you've always wanted to see in real life in full view. Yahweh says, I will allow him to see. I will put it on exhibition and see with his own eyes. Well, Moshe really wanted to get into the promised land. He really wanted to get in there, and Yahweh said, because you defamed me, because you minimized my kavod, my glory, you misrepresented me, you're not going in. I'll let you look, but you're not going in. And oh gosh. The last word here, last word of Psalms 91 is Bet Yod Shin Vav Ayin Tav Yod. Be Yeshua T. T, Tav Yod, is a suffix. Yod, the last letter, means my. Bet as the prefix means in the condition. Yod then is another suffix letter, means he will. And Shin Vav Ayin Shua is a cry for help. So in this case, Shua is like he will cry to me for help. But here it's like he will allow him to see my salvation. Well, that's an answer to the cry for help. He says, I will answer him at the beginning of verse 15. So here in the end of verse 16, the answer is, I'll let him see my salvation. Moshe did not see Yahweh's salvation. Moshe saw Yahuwah save and rescue from the Amalekites and from Og and Sihon and these various, but he didn't see the way it played out where Yahweh was put on display for the whole plan. Yahweh said, look in the land, but not see what happened. Moshe knew what was going to happen. You guys are going to go in, you're going to be stupid, you're going to set up idols, and it's all going downhill. Talking about setting up idols, do you know that they've set up this satanic Baphomet idol in New York, and I think it's Washington, D.C., and a number of other places around this country under the guise of freedom of religion? They're setting up idolatry, idols of satanic imagery.
They have one set up in the Vatican.
What's happening to this country? Is there some reason why things are going to fall apart? But you see, if we have no image of Yahweh, not male or female, as we read before, not an animal, not a bird, not a fish, not a reptile, not anything in heaven above, earth beneath, the waters under the earth, or the planets or the stars, no object should reference his face. That's the second commandment. Al Panay means in reference or regard of my face or my countenance or my presence. Oh, no image. No image.
I got to go out and take that Jesus fish off my car. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. I'll finish up while you do that. Oh, you're kidding? That's nothing to joke about. Gosh, man.
My Jesus fish.
Ichthus. I-X-O-Y-E. It
Yeah.
means Jesus Christ, God's Son and Savior. It's a statement. It's not an icon of idolatry.
Okay,
It's a play on words.
all right.
Iota, chi, well, anyway, that's Greek. I-X-O-Y-E is what it looks like in English. Theta, gosh, what's the Y shape? I know it, I just can't think. Sigma is the last one. Anyway, the point is here, length of days, satisfaction, and allow to see my salvation, how it resolves. Well, Moshe, like I said, did not get to see how it resolves. He saw the land, but he didn't get to see the salvation. You know, the apostles never even got to see that. The apostles never got to see the salvation. The apostles were basically all killed, I think, except for one. How about David? Let's look at Psalms 89, verses 32 to 52. It's kind of a terrible psalm. Psalms 89, 32 to 52. The first 31 verses is all about, here, verse 29. Forever shall I preserve my kindness for him, talking about David. My covenant shall remain true to him, and I shall establish his seed eternally. His throne shall be like the days of heaven. 30, that's 30, 29 to 30. If his sons should forsake my Torah and not walk in my judgments, if they should profane my statutes and not observe my commandments, that's why we're talking about this, so that we will, so we're not those sons, but we're other type of son, then I will punish their transgression with the rod and their iniquity with plagues, but I shall not utterly remove my kindness from him. I will not be false to my faithfulness. I shall not profane my covenant. I shall not alter the utterance of my lips. That's verse 35 of Psalms 89. This is the verse I was mentioning the other day, saying that he will not go back on these words. Yahweh will not contradict what he said, and we can count on these words. This is the very verse I was referencing. Verse 36, one thing have I sworn by my holiness, or in my kadosh. Remember, the angels going around the throne say, kadosh, 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 not holy, holy, holy. So this, what emanates purely from Yahuwah is kadosh. So when he says, what I have sworn in my kadoshness, I would not be deceitful to David. Verse 37, his seed will endure forever. His throne shall be like the sun before me. Like the moon, it shall be established forever, a faithful witness in the sky. But, here's verse 36, but you have abandoned and rejected. You have been angry. You're anointed with your anointed one. You have destroyed the covenant of your servant. You have profaned his crown to the ground. You have breached all his fences. The het didn't work. You have made his strongholds into debris. Hey, where's the insurmountably high tower? All wayfarers have plundered him. He has become a disgrace to his neighbors. You have exalted the right hand of his tormentors. You have gladdened all his foes. You can go through the rest of this chapter, a couple more verses. It's like, until when, Yahweh, will you constantly hide yourself? Will your wrath burn like fire? I'm mindful of how short is my lifetime. For what worthlessness you have created all the sons of man. So this chapter ends up saying, where are your former acts of kindness? O Adonai, those who you pledged to David in your faithfulness. So if David wrote this psalm, Psalms 89, he's saying, gosh, no, this is by Ethan, the Ezrahite. David was given a promise, and then it all crashed and burned. And you know, we've never seen the promises of Yahweh fulfilled ever in history, ever since. Even when Yeshua's here, saw a few things, and then it all basically started to take off the ground, and like the Wright brothers airplane, getting off the ground, woohoo! We've invented flight. The Messiah's here. Look what he's doing, all these miracles. He said, we'll all do greater miracles than him, walking on water, raising the dead, healing the blind and the lepers, and all of a sudden, crashed. And for the last 2,000 years, all his believers have been chopped up by the enemy, the Muslims, the Boko Haram. What? Where's Yahweh? Goes back to Ezekiel 36:23. When we make his Shem Kadosh, when we appropriately say this is who he is, then he'll step in and go walking and tromp on the wicked. So I believe what he's saying is that it's our fault, and it's up to us to do something about it for our regard. Isaiah 58, verse 13. Back up. Surely, this is verse 7, surely you should break your bread for the hungry and bring the moaning poor home. Bring them what they need to live. We talked about this before. Does it mean bring into your home? It doesn't say that. Bring them home. Bring them household utility. My point is, here we are at a time where everybody's hoarded up some stuff. Now you can get into the game of giving. Now you can get into the game of helping because you've got hordes of stuff. If this thing goes on for 8 months, who knows who's going to end up with what? Maybe I'll end up resolving in 8 days. I don't know. The point is, the measure you use, it'll be measured to you. You have some stuff, now's the time we start playing the game. What are you going to do to each other? Surely, Isaiah 58:7, surely you should break your bread for the hungry, bring the moaning poor household home. When you see a naked person, clothe him. Do not hide yourself from your kin, your family, your kinfolk. Then, this is an if-then, if you do this, if you help each other with a kind heart of mercy and compassion and kindness and goodness, righteousness, doing what Yahuwah said, which is, he said in other places, this is the true religion. This is the way to walk in righteousness. Help each other with a good attitude. Then your light will burst out like the dawn. That's the sun in the morning with its strength. Like I said the other day, if you want to believe that the day starts with the darkness, and that what's in front of us is this deep dark gloom of jet black pitch darkness where there's no light, and it's going to endure for a while, and then later on we might get some dawn. Okay, then that's what you expect, that's what you project, that's what you look forward to, and like we said in the last video, you might just cause that to happen. If you anticipate that the day starts at the boker, like this, the sun bursting forth, then you do what Yahweh said, envisioning that this promise is true, and that as you help one another, your strength, vitality, health, awareness, burst forth like the sun in its strength. Believe whatever you want to believe. Your healing will speedily sprout. Your righteous deed will precede you. Pay it forward. Do you ever hear about that? That's what it's based on. And the glory of Yahweh will gather you in. That word glory is the word kavod that we just read in verse 15 of Psalm 91. The glory of Yahweh will not only gather you in, he says, I will kavod him. It's the same picture. I will honor him, glorify, give weighty regard to, and that will surround and it'll absorb us. Different ways to read these exact words. Verse 9 of Isaiah 58. Then you will call. That's the word kara, vaikra. Then, if you do what he says, because you learn how to read and you learn how to interpret and you don't believe the translations and the preachers necessarily, but you look for it yourself and you seek him with all your heart and soul, you will call and Yahweh will respond. That's the word ayinun hey. The same word translated as fasting is the word respond, answer, burden. He will burden himself with your concerns if you burden yourself with the concerns of your neighbor and your kin. You will cry out and he will say, here I am. Hineni. Hey nun nunyor. Hineni. If, it's all conditional, if you remove from your midst perversion, finger-pointing, evil speech, that's bitching at each other, and offer your soul to the hungry, and satisfy, that's the word shin bet ayin, satisfy the afflicted soul. Don't turn your back when you see somebody tormented. Then, what you do precedes what happens to you. Then your light will shine in the darkness, and your deepest gloom will be like the noon. This is almost exactly the same phrasing as Psalms 91 earlier that we read just the other day. Then Yahuwah will guide you always. That's the word derek. Halakha, guiding how you walk, putting the ground under your feet as you're walking on his path. He'll move the road as you just walk straight ahead. Your deepest gloom will become like the noon. It doesn't matter what they do to the economy. It doesn't matter what happened to your job. It doesn't matter what happened to your neighbor. Yahweh says he'll preserve. This is an incredible promise. Then Yahweh will guide you always, sate your soul. That's the word, again, 7, which is overwhelming, surfeited, plenty and contentment in times of drought, and strengthen your bones. That's these days. And you will be like a well-watered garden and a spring of water whose waters never fail. Somehow he will provide. Waters coming up from under the earth to provide your needs. One way or another, Yahweh will provide for you when you help provide from your stash of hoarding to your family and kin. Maybe even them dang Samaritans that aren't fit to be called human. Yeah. Go read that story. The Samaritans were disgusting, rejected people. And the Good Samaritan story was that it was the Samaritan that helped this other guy, and then Yeshua said, who's your neighbor? And it's like, oh man, not the Samaritans. Read the Bible. It's good for the soul. That was a quote from an advertisement. Never mind. If you restrain your foot, verse 13, Isaiah 58, because it is the Sabbath. Or you could say, because you have repented and returned. I didn't used to restrain my foot on the Sabbath, but because I've returned, Deuteronomy 30, Deuteronomy 4, and I've restrained my foot because it's the Sabbath, because it's the day that Yahuwah rested on the seventh day, and he didn't work and told us not to work, which is the proof and the sign that means we're listening and we've returned to him. Refrain from accomplishing your own needs on my holy day. Well, this might be Yom Kippur, not just the seventh day Sabbath. If you proclaim the Sabbath a delight and the kadosh of Yahweh to be honored, and you honor it by not engaging in your own affairs, from seeking your own needs or discussing the forbidden, your own job or whatever, then you will, or things which are agitating and conflicting, then you will delight in Yahweh. See, all this is if then. If you do this, then this happens. This is the teeter-totter. This is the mirror. This is what the regard that we have is the regard that he gives us. Then you will delight in Yahweh, and I will mount you astride the heights of the world, mounting up with wings like eagles, the pinions. I will provide you the heritage of your forefather Yaakov. For the mouth of Yahuwah has spoken. His mouth spoke. If we believe these words, if we act on these words, then when it says the heritage of your forefather Yaakov, that means the promises. Everything he said to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Yaakov, going back 4,000 years. Abraham was 2000 BC. Moshe, 1500 BC. David, 1000 BC. Daniel, 500 BC, approximately. Going back to all these forefathers and say every one of those promises that they hoped for, that they never even saw, but they hoped, that Yeshua came and bought for us to bring us back because we had completely taken ourselves out of the game. We as humans, we as individuals, we as our family lineage, completely undeserving of any of these things. Yeshua came and bought them back for us so that we could participate in this game, in this covenant. And he says, I've kept them for you. If you want to be the generation who receives these matters, receives these things, stored up in abeyance is another word phrase that I've read elsewhere. All these things are available to us if we choose to be the generation that seeks him. If we choose to be the generation that Deuteronomy 30 was talking about, return to these words that Yahuwah spoke to our forefathers, fulfilling his desire, because we are his heritage, then he will give us the heritage of the heights of the world, lifting us up on the pinion of these, like this eagle. And then there's one last thing to mention here. Psalms 84:6. Praiseworthy is the man whose strength is in you, those whose hearts focus on upward paths. You want to be mounted up on wings as eagles? What's the path of Aver? The word eagle, those pinion wings, that's the first three words of Abraham. Aleph, Bet, Resh. Bet, Resh means to be purified and cleansed. Bet, Resh, Resh is to pronounce articulately. I'm trying to give you the picture here that in the words of the Hebrew language, it validates the message that to learn the words of the Hebrew language is kara, is to learn how to read, is to cry out, is to answer him summoning you so that you can qualify for understanding his paths, conducting your behavior in his ways of righteousness, and then qualify for what's been held for 4,000 years, promised to give to the generation like the Israelites going into the land of Canaan, like we read the other day, eating food off the table that you didn't even prepare, drinking wine from the vineyard that you didn't plant, drinking water from the well that you didn't have to dig the cistern, eating out of the garden that you didn't have to sit there and tend, living in houses that you didn't even have to build. It's like, is 2/3 of the people on the face of the earth going to die? And I don't know. There's different things prophesied. But the point is, it's not about us saying, hey, I want that guy's place, or I want to eat that guy's food. But Yahweh says, if you look to me and walk in my ways, I will provide what you need. The spring of water that you drink from will never fail. I will lift you up like wings of an eagle. I will clear out what's around you above. I will put the road under your feet below, and I will put you in an insurmountably high, and the pestilence won't come near me, near you, whoever, and that even young lions raging with their testosterone, wanting to make a name for themselves, and sea monsters, great military powers of the earth, you will tread on them, because Yahuwah will be the one who stomps them down and just brings you on the path. These are great promises, but they're contingent on us hearing his words and walking in his ways and trusting with a fervent heart. Did you have something else to throw into the mix there?
I think you covered it all pretty well. That was the last verse, wasn't it?
That was the last verse.
Was.
Okay, one last thing to read. This is Isaiah 33, verse 6. The faith of your times will be the strength of your salvations, wisdom and knowledge, fear of Yahuwah. That is treasure. The faith of your times. What does that mean? Well, the word faith there, Aleph, Mem, Vav, Nun, Tav. Amunat. Aleph, Mem, Nun is the word amen. But this has a Vav and it has a Tav at the suffix. It basically means faithful, doing what he said, like one who's trained, one who's educated, one who's experienced, and so he does. He does what he's expected to do. A skilled artisan is that same word that's simply translated faith. So you could say the doing of what you were educated because you learned of Yahweh's Shem. They know my name. If we know his Shem, we know what's expected of us, we know what he desires of us, we do it, and he says, this, finally, after 4,000 years since Abraham, finally, this is my people. Doing what he said to do will be the strength of your salvations, wisdom and knowledge, fear of Yahweh. And that word fear is Yod Resh Aleph. Yod Resh Aleph Hey means he has allowed himself to be perceived on exhibition. So the word to see, to perceive, to really get it, to be exhibited, and fear and reverence is the same word. That is man's treasure. They put man in brackets here. That is treasure. And the last word of verse 6 is Aleph Vav Zadi Resh Vav. It sounds like the word Azor, like the Azor Islands off the coast of Africa. If you're going out in the ocean and all of a sudden you find these islands, like finding the Hawaiian Islands, it's like, wow, a treasure trove, fresh water, food, a place to land, and you're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. But the interesting thing here is Aleph Vav Zadi Resh Vav. The root word is zadi resh. Hey, wait a minute, that's the word that was Caesar and Kaiser and Tsar and Mitzrayim and trouble and stress, but it's also that hardened place where your treasure is secure. Aleph Vav Zadi Resh. When it says that's man's treasure, you could say, instead of us being kicked around by the hardship, we become the hardened. Chet Samik Nun, Chosen, means to be like armored and strengthened and made so tough and strong, like putting, carbide and steel. Makes it, carbide teeth on a saw blade makes them so tough they can cut through nails. Same concept. What I'm saying is that you can play with the Hebrew words, you can look at the Hebrew words, it opens up like a blossom. The more you study, the more you look. And Psalms 91, I believe, is available to everyone, but it's a contingency. You gotta want to listen. You gotta, with all your heart and all your soul, seek his Shem. Comprehend his name. His place. Shem is also place. Name, found, name, fame, renown, reputation, occupation of all your concerns, and the place where you're at. Learn that of Yahweh, and you got Psalm 91.
All right, brother, good job.
Shalom.
Stay tuned for the next topic.
Well, this is
to be announced.
On the calendar we're regarding. This is Pesach evening, just happening. Tomorrow is first day of unleavened bread, Chag HaMatzot, 10 days of eating bread without yeast. Oh gosh, that's a whole other subject. What exactly is leaven?
No, baking powder.
Is it baking powder or is it baking soda? Is it leaven? Is it...
Here we go.
We might have another video that people would love to hate.
Yeah.
Talking about what is unleavened bread. We'll do that tomorrow.
Shalom. All right, brother. Shalom.